Hello? Hello?
Hello, good evening, ma.
Yes. Yeah, Naomi. So you start the class, even if we don't have any, just teach.
Okay, okay, I get it now.
Are you with me? You
All
get, we're
right.
trying to get students, just teach.
All right.
And because it's recorded, so I'm going to upload and share and,
Oh.
start getting people interested.
All right, ma.
Okay?
All right, ma. Okay, good evening. So today, what we'll be discussing is nouns. We'll be looking at nouns, what a noun is, the definition, the types, and different examples of nouns that we have. So we'll start by what a noun is. A noun is a word that represents a person, thing, concept, or place.
Hello? Naomi, you're not sharing your
Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
That's how I will also do that. So today, in today's class, hello, good evening. All right, so we'll be looking at what a noun is in today's class, the definition, the types, and examples of nouns that we have. So what is a noun? A noun is a word that represents a person, a thing, a concept, or place. So most sentences usually contain at least one noun or pronoun. So when we say a noun is a word that represents, it means it stands for or it names a person. We can also say a noun is a naming word. It names a person. It could be a thing, a concept, a place, or even an idea. Most sentences usually contain at least one noun or pronoun. For example, the sentences below contain anywhere from 1 to 3 nouns. So these are the sentences. You have the dog ran very fast. The dog ran very fast. In this particular sentence, the noun here is dog. The dog ran very fast. And here, dog is the name of a particular animal. It's a word that is used to name a type of animal. Then you have the next example. June is my favorite month. June is my favorite month. Now, can you identify the noun in this particular example? June is my favorite month. Good evening, Charles. All right. So June is my favorite month. Now, the noun in June is my favorite month is June, and it's the name of a particular month in the year. So the name of that month is June. Then you have another example. Teachers emphasize the importance of grammar. Teachers emphasize the importance of grammar. Now, the noun here is a name, teachers, a name that is commonly given to a certain group of people who teach. So anyone who teaches is referred to as a teacher. Now, moving on, how are nouns used in sentences? A complete sentence usually consists of at least a subject and a verb. Now, the subject describes some person or thing, and the verb describes an action carried out by the subject. So whenever a sentence is complete, it usually consists of a subject and a verb, and the subject describes the person or thing. Now, you'd also refer to the subject as the doer of the action, and the verb there describes an action that is carried out by the subject. In most cases, the subject is a noun or a pronoun. So the most basic role for a noun is to act as the subject for a verb that follows it. So what a noun does is to act as the subject. In sentences, the noun, the doer of the action, is usually the subject in the sentence, and that's the person who carries out the action that the verb does. Now you have examples, nouns as subject. You have birds fly. Now, birds here is the noun and fly is the action. Birds fly. So the bird is doing the action of flying. Then the next example, David went out. Now, the noun here is David. David went out. Now, the action here is went out. So David is performing the action of going out. So David is the subject, went is the verb, and David is the doer of the action. You also have pizza is delicious. Pizza is delicious. So pizza is the name of a particular type of food, and delicious here is not a verb in this case. This is not an action. This is an adjective to qualify the noun pizza. All right, so just type in the comment sections examples of nouns in sentences. So type in the comments, the chat box, using nouns as subject in a sentence. So I'll be looking out to check for your examples. So just type it and we'll go through it together. All right, so moving on. Types of nouns. We're moving to the types of nouns that we have. Now, there are various types of nouns that we have in the English language, and we'll be looking at them in pair. So you have common nouns and proper nouns. Now, an important distinction is made between two types of nouns. So you have common nouns and you have proper nouns. Now, common nouns are more general. A common noun refers to the general name or the general thing that probably a group of that, maybe a group of people, a group of animals, a group of things are called. So it's a general concept. It's not specific to a particular person. It's not the specific name that you give to a place, a thing, or an idea. It's general. Now, proper nouns, on the other hand, are names that are given to specific people, places, things, or concepts. So proper nouns are specific names given to people, places, things, animals, while common nouns are the general names that you refer to either people, places, things, even animals. For example, a class of person or a classroom of students. If you say students, now students are the general name that we give to everyone present in the classroom, although that's not the specific name of every individual present, but the general name that would call a group of a classroom full of students are students. For example, another example of common nouns is probably a specific type of animal. If you say, oh, the dogs in my neighborhood were barking, the dogs. Now, that's very common. There are a lot of dogs, probably 20, it could be 2, it could be 20, it could be 30. We don't know the specific dogs. So the dogs were barking in my neighborhood. That's a common noun. Then when you come to proper nouns, these are specific names that you give to people, places, things, or concepts. And they're always capitalized to distinguish them from common nouns. Now, the name that you were given at birth by your parents is a proper noun. That's the specific name that you are identified by. For example, my name is Karosi. That's my specific name. So that is a proper noun. Whatever your name is, that's a proper noun. Also, it's also important to note that a place, wherever you are, wherever the location you are, it's not just referred to as probably a neighborhood or anything. It has a specific name. For example, I live in Lagos. Lagos is the specific name of the place where I am. So all proper nouns are identified with capital letters. So you have examples here. Anya is traveling to France by train. Anya is traveling to France by train. Of the three children, Lola has the strongest grasp of geometry. So the first example here, try to identify the proper nouns here. The first example, identify the proper nouns in the first example. So just type it in the chat box. Anya is traveling to France by train. If you can, type it in the chat box. Identify the proper nouns in Anya is traveling to France by train. Good. Thank you very much, Estelle. Did I get your name correctly, please? Let me know. Is it pronounced Estelle? Good, thank you. Yes, Anya and France is the proper noun in Anya is traveling to France by train. Okay, so you have the next example. Of the three children, Lola has the strongest grasp of geometry. So what's the proper noun in that example? Of the three children, thank you, thank you. So of the three children, Lola has the strongest grasp of geometry. So what's the proper noun there? Good, thank you. Lola. Lola is the proper noun. Yes, great. So now, can you try to also identify the common nouns in both examples as well? So the first one, Anya is traveling to France by train. So what's the common noun in that example? Anya is traveling to France by train. So a common noun is a general name that a particular thing is known by, a general name that is just given, not a specific name. So there's a particular word here that is a common noun. In Anya is traveling to France by train. Okay, anybody? Okay. All right. So yes, the general or the common name in Anya is traveling to France by train is train. Train is a name of, it's a general name of a particular transport or a particular transportation or vehicle that is used to convey people. Now, I can decide to name a particular train, or the same thing when you say car. Car is a common noun. It's a general name that vehicles are called. But so train is a particular name. Now, there's some people who name their cars. The cars are so precious to them and they give their cars a name. So in that case, if I decide to name my car and give it a specific name, it has stopped being a general, it has stopped from ceasing to bear the general name or the common noun car. But now it goes by whatever name I give to it. Let's assume I name my car, I don't know. Can someone just give me a random name? Just mention a random name that I could probably name my car. Okay, thank you, Sky. So I decided to name my car Sky. From that moment that I name my car Sky, and everybody around me knows, and they're like, oh, you didn't come with Sky today. It has ceased to be a common noun. It's now a proper noun that I've given to my vehicle. Good one. All right, so moving on. it's important to note that the names of seasons are exceptions to the capitalization rules of proper nouns. So normally proper nouns are capitalized wherever they appear, irrespective of where they appear in a sentence. You usually would capitalize proper nouns. That's specific names of people, places, things. But when it comes to seasons, seasons are not capitalized. So you have spring, summer, fall, autumn, and winter. So they are exception to the rules of capitalization of proper nouns. So they are not capitalized in English language, unlike the names of days and months. So for days and months, when you're talking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, irrespective of where the days of the week appear in sentences, they must be capitalized. Same thing for the months of the year. So they must be capitalized as well. Now, moving on to the next set of types of nouns, we have countable and uncountable nouns. So countable nouns, also referred to as count nouns, refer to things that can be counted. Anything that can be counted are referred to as countable nouns. So they can be preceded by an indefinite article or by a number, and they can be pluralized. So most nouns are countable. For example, cars, houses, bags, people. To mention a few, umbrellas, fans, what have you. Most of the nouns that we have can be capitalized. So just drop in the chat box examples of countable nouns that you know that can be capitalized. I'll be on the lookout for it. So moving on, next we have uncountable nouns. Now, uncountable nouns can also be referred to as non-count nouns or mass nouns. Now, they refer to things that cannot be counted. So they should never be preceded by an indefinite article or a number, and they cannot be pluralized. For example, an uncountable noun that you have is information, advice. You cannot pluralize information. So information is information. You don't say information. You don't say I have informations for you. No, it's I have an information for you or have a piece of advice for you. Now, one thing that you do when you come to uncountable noun is that you use most times you qualify them with adjectives to be able to use them. You have a measuring meter for uncountable nouns. I like to say measuring meter. You use a way that you can measure what you want to say or what you want to identify in uncountable nouns. For example, a good example of uncountable nouns is sand. 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 Now, you cannot count sand per se. You can't count sand, but you have a measuring yardstick that you can use, probably a truckload of sand. But sand as it is, you can't really count it. So you use a truckload of sand, a handful of sand. Same thing with grains. So like you have rice. You can't count rice. You cannot count each grain of rice. You can't do that. So you probably use a measuring tool. Then you say a cup of rice, a handful of rice, or what have you. So that's how you count. That's the system you use when you're dealing with uncountable nouns. So a common mistake in English is treating uncountable nouns as if they were countable by pluralizing them or using an indefinite article. So the solution to these problems is usually to rephrase using a related term or phrase that is countable, just like I said. So let's look at some examples here. So mistakes with uncountable noun research. Now, my previous two researches indicated that, so research is also an uncountable noun, which is wrong. So instead of saying my previous two researches indicated that, so you rephrase the whole sentence. Now, if you're not sure whether a particular noun should be counted or it's an uncountable noun, one thing you can do is to rephrase the whole sentence. So you have my previous two studies indicated that. Then look at, it is important to account for bias in a research. It is important to account for bias in research. Now, you can't use an indefinite article because it's a non-count noun. So you can't use in a research. So it's important to account for bias in research. And you can also say it's important to account for bias in a research project. So the project there that has been added to research makes it possible for it to be counted in that sense, or adding the indefinite article a. Now, another type of nouns that we have are concrete and abstract nouns. Now, concrete nouns refer to physical objects, places, individuals, things, or people that can be observed with the senses. So things that you can see, touch, or lay hold on. So concrete nouns, they refer to physical objects, places, or individuals or things that can be observed with the senses. For example, you have apple, hill, zebra, Dorothy. I mean, I can see an apple, I can touch an apple. I can see a hill, I can climb the hill. A zebra, I can see it. Probably if it allows me pet it, I can. Then Dorothy, probably Dorothy is your friend. You can touch Dorothy, you can hug her, or what have you. She's an entity that you can physically connect with. Now, abstract nouns, on the other hand, refer to concepts, ideas, feelings, and processes that cannot be physically located. So they refer to concepts, ideas. Most abstract nouns are usually concepts or ideas. You don't define abstract nouns with people, places, things. No, they're usually concepts, ideas, feelings, and processes. So, for example, you have the word grammar. Now, you would know that grammar is a concept that is used in language. But can I see what's the thing called grammar? Can I see it? Can I touch it? No. Same with justice. Now, justice is also a concept of fairness. So whenever maybe justice is being done, doesn't really mean I can see justice, I can touch justice, except if justice is someone's name. But in a case where it's a concept, I cannot lay hold of it. Same thing with emotions, sadness, happiness, joy, or whatever emotion you're feeling at that point. It's a feeling. It's not something you can see. Sometimes it's always hard to express or even articulate your emotions. Sometimes when someone asks you to explain, oh, how are you feeling at this moment? Can you describe how you're feeling? Sometimes it's hard to put it into words, but it doesn't negate the fact that you know exactly what you're feeling at that moment. So also you have concepts like relaxation, you have You have peace. These are concepts that abstract nouns define. So abstract nouns refer to concepts, ideas, feelings, and processes that cannot be physically located or connected with. Then concrete nouns, on the other hand, refer to physical objects, places, or individuals, or things or people that can be observed with the senses. Please, if you have any question, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. I would go through it at the end of the class. Please do that. Also, it's important to note that there's no grammatical difference between concrete and abstract nouns. It's just a distinction that's made to point out the different kinds of things that nouns can refer to. Moving on, the next type of noun that we have is collective noun or collective nouns. So a collective noun is a word used to refer to a group of people or things. So a collective noun is a word that you use to refer to a group of people or things. For example, a team of football players. Now, it will be, except if I have to, it would be challenging for me to, maybe in an essay or what have you, to mention everybody's name on the football team. That would be quite challenging. But instead of referring to everybody individually, I can refer to them collectively. So the football team or the football players went on, and the football players had a landslide victory in the just concluded match. So that's one way that I can use collective nouns rather than mentioning everybody's name on the team. Now, a band of musicians is a collective word that you use to refer to probably a group of musicians. Also, you use band for robbers, yes. So a band of robbers. Now, when you come to animals, you use herd of sheep, a herd of goats. So collective nouns can also be a proper noun. For example, the name of a specific company or band. For example, you have the Beatles. That's the name of that band. Now, I think more commonly, you'd always hear the Beatles, the Beatles. If you ask me, I don't know the names of the members of that particular music band, but the collective name they're known by, I think quite a number of people know that. Or you refer to a company. Now, I mean, it would be chaotic to mention, probably for a mega corporation, to mention all the names of everybody that works in the company. So we'll just refer to the name of the company. For example, can anyone give me probably the name of any company you're familiar with? So please, can you hear me? All right. So can anyone give me an example of a company that you know or you're familiar with? So just type it in the chat box. I'm waiting. Thank you, Estelle. So you have Unilever. Thank you. So that's the name of a company. So rather than, I'm sure they have quite a number of branches across nations, across different countries. So instead of individually mentioning how many staff do I want to mention there, no. So you refer to it collectively by the name of the company. So that's why sometimes a company can also be a proper noun, can also be a collective noun, or a collective noun can also be a proper noun in that case. Now, sometimes a collective noun can appear to be singular. For example, team, okay, or the plural, the Beatles. So it can be singular in form, and there's some disagreements about whether they should be treated grammatically as singular or plural. So let's look at what applies to that rule in the US English. So it's standard to treat collective nouns as singular, regardless of whether they look plural or not. So in US English, it's standard to treat collective nouns as singular, regardless of whether they look plural or not. So whether they look plural or not, for example, the Beatles or team, or in whatever form it appears, you still treat collective nouns as singular, whether they look plural or not. Then, okay, so in UK English, the same words may be treated as plural or singular depending on the context. For example, can be treated as plural when you're emphasizing the individual members of the group, singular when you're emphasizing the overall collective. So you have examples here. Collective noun, US English. The whole team is really excited to meet you. The whole team is really excited to meet you. A gaggle of geese is the most threatening thing you're likely to encounter at the park. Now, take note. What is showing us here that is treated as singular is the verb is. The whole team is really excited to meet you. Now, of course, the team is a group of people, a group of people. Now, and in the US English, the rule states that irrespective of how it appears, it's all collective nouns should always be referred to or be used in the singular term. So the whole team is really excited to meet you. So that's singular, is. Now, if it was regarded to as plural, it would have been the whole team are really excited to meet you, but it still retains singular status. So a gaggle of geese is the most threatening thing you're likely to encounter at the park. So is there is also indicating that it's still singular. It's referred, even though it's a quite a number of geese, more than two, probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but they're still referred to as singular. So a gaggle of geese is the most threatening thing you're likely to encounter at the park. Then you have another example here. My favorite band is Fleetwood Mac, but Talking Heads is pretty good too. Now, this is a band, a group of band as well. Now, probably a band of musicians, and definitely more than one person. So you're talking probably 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 people in this band, but they're still used with the singular verb is. So my favorite band is Fleetwood Mac, but Talking Heads is pretty good too. Now, there are other types of nouns that we have in the English language, and we'll be looking at them. So there are many nouns in English, more than any other part of speech, and accordingly, many ways of forming nouns and using them. So these are some of the other important nouns that we'll be looking at. So you have possessive nouns, you have gerunds, you have attributive nouns, appositive nouns, generic nouns. Okay, I think we've discussed possessive. Yes, we mentioned possessive. So now we're looking at possessive nouns. So a possessive noun is a noun that's followed by an apostrophe and the letter S to indicate possession. So it's a noun that is followed by an apostrophe. This is an apostrophe, and the letter S to indicate possession. So whenever you want to show ownership or possession, you use a possessive noun, and it's always indicated with an apostrophe. For example, my father's house, my father's house, my auntie's bag. So that auntie, individual. Now, if it's a plural term, if it's a plural, and for example, let's use someone's name. Okay, what name would I use that you might? Someone should please suggest a name. Okay. Okay. Let's assume this particular family is known as probably their son named Gabriel, and you want to refer to the entire family. What's the entire family? The Gabriel family, and you're referring to a particular possession that they have. So the apostrophe in that case will be after the S. So the Gabriels. So these are the Gabriels. They're known as the Gabriels. So the apostrophe will be after the S in the case of plural possessions. So the Gabriel's house. So you have the apostrophe. I've dropped that in the chat box. So the apostrophe, when you're referring to a plural entity, it's always after the S. Now, if the possession is just singular, it's before the apostrophe is before the S. Now, to indicate possession, okay, so that's what I just explained. You add the apostrophe after the S. And there's no need to add an extra S after you've added the apostrophe after. Now, examples of possessive nouns in a sentence. This place is smaller than my parents' house, but much bigger than my sister's apartment. This place is smaller than my parents' house, but much bigger than my sister's apartment. So just type in the chat box, identify the possessive nouns that are in this particular example. This place is smaller than my parents' house, but much bigger than my sister's apartment. Okay, so moving on to the next. Yes, thank you, Estelle. So you have parents and sisters. So it's important to note that for the parents, because this is more than one person, the apostrophe is after the S. So that was what I was trying to explain earlier. So the apostrophe comes after the S for plurals. So my parents' house. So you show the possession after the S, but good one, well done. Thank you. Moving on to the next type of noun that we have, the gerund. So a gerund is a noun that is identified to the present participle. So it's a noun that is identical. A gerund is a noun that is identical to the present participle, that is the ing form of a verb. So these are typically nouns that describe the same activity as the verb they were formed from, such as driving. Driving formed from the past participle of drive. So whenever you add, simply put, gerunds are when you add ing to a particular form or to a particular verb and it becomes a noun in this case. So a gerund is a noun that is identical to the present participle, that is the ing form of a verb. So these are typically nouns that describe the same activity as the verb they were formed from, such as driving, formed from the present participle of drive. For example, now, What are you doing? I'm driving. So the name of that particular action, the name of the action you're doing at that particular moment is driving. It's quite similar, very identical to verb, but anything that can be named is a noun. Take note, since a noun is a naming word, so anything that can be named is a noun. So whatever you're doing at that particular moment, the name of that action is driving. So what are you doing? I'm driving. So the name of the action as well is driving. So examples of gerunds in a sentence, you have when I'm on vacation, sunbathing and reading are my favorite activities. When I'm on vacation, sunbathing and reading are my favorite activities. So what are the names of the favorite activities that this person likes to do on vacation? So that is a gerund, the name of. So identify the gerunds in this sentence. Just type it in the chat box. Anybody? Thank you, Estelle. Yes, so sunbathing and reading. So that's the gerund. Those are the gerunds in this particular example. So the names of these two activities that this person likes to do on vacation are sunbathing and reading. So that's a gerund. Although it's quite similar to a verb, but one way to identify gerunds is even though it looks like the verb, it's also the name of an activity. So very important to know. Or it's the name of an action, since verbs are action words. So gerunds are names of actions. Now, gerunds are one way of turning a verb into a noun. The opposite process, turning a noun into a verb, is called verbing. Now, you also have situations where sometimes you use a noun as a verb, and that action is called verbing. So a very good example of using a noun as a verb is the word man. man, man. Now, man is a noun. Man is a noun, but it can also be used as a verb. For example, let's use it as a noun. So just type a sentence where you use man as a noun. Use man, the word man, as a noun in a sentence. So just type a sentence where you use the word man as a noun. Thank you. The man went on a walk with his dog. The man went on a walk with his dog. Now, can you try to use the word man as a verb? If you can try, just try, give it a try. So try to use the word man as a verb also. Okay. Or should I just give my example, or should I wait a little bit? All right, so let me give my example. Now, so man as a verb. Now, when you ask someone to watch the door, so, or watch, yeah, the door. So, all right. Okay, so man the door till I return. Man the door. Or Tosin asked Tola to man the door, or man the door till I return. In this situation, man has left the realm of being a noun. It's now a verb. What I mean, or what does it mean when I say man the door? When I tell you to man the door, it means like guard the door or keep watch at the door. So it's no longer a noun in this case. This noun is now used as a verb. So that's what that process, when you convert a noun to a verb, it's called a verbing process. Oh, hi, Abdul Basit. No problem. You are in the right place. Okay. Okay, so moving on. You have attributive nouns. Attributive nouns. So attributive nouns are nouns that are used like adjectives. Attributive nouns, they are nouns that are used like adjectives to modify another noun. For example, company is an attributive noun in the phrase company policy. So policy is a noun, company is a noun. Now, in this case, attributive nouns are used like adjectives. What is an adjective? An adjective is a word that modifies or qualifies a noun. In simple terms, it means an adjective gives more information about a noun. An adjective gives clearer information about a noun. For example, she drives a blue car. She drives a blue car. Car is the noun there, but blue there is giving me more information about the type of car that she drives. Oh, what kind of car does she drive? She drives a blue car, or probably a brand of car. In this case, so it probably be a particular brand of car. That's maybe the adjective. Oh, what type of car does she drive? A Ford. She drives a Ford car. So in that case, that's an adjective. Now, attributive nouns are nouns that are used, they're used like adjectives to modify another noun. That is to give you more information about another noun. For example, company. Company is, of course, it's a noun on its own. So it's an attributive noun when used in a phrase like company policy. So the company policy, not just policy. I mean, policy is vague on its own. So what particular policy? The company policy. So that's giving more information about the word policy. Even though attributive nouns work similarly to adjectives, they are still classed as nouns. This is because they don't fulfill all the grammatical requirements of adjectives. For example, they have to appear before the noun. It wouldn't make sense to say a policy that is company. Okay, so the reason why attributive nouns are still regarded as nouns and not adjectives is because they don't completely meet the demands of an adjective. An adjective can appear anywhere in the sentence and it will still qualify or modify that particular noun. But for an attributive noun, it has to come before the other noun that it's modifying. For example, company policy. I can't say policy company. No, it has to be the company policy. What type of policy? The company's policy or a company policy. I can't say the policy company. No, except if policy is the name of a particular company. And that wouldn't be an attributive noun in that case. So you have an example here of attributive nouns. You have, I'm a big fan of carrot cake. but ice cream is my favorite dessert. I'm a big fan of carrot cake, but ice cream is my favorite dessert. Can anyone try to guess what the attributive noun is in this particular sentence? So I'm a big fan of carrot cake, but ice cream is my favorite dessert. Okay, so you have the word cake. Cake is a noun. Everybody knows, cake. It's a noun. It's the name of um, a particular pastry that is eaten commonly all over the world. But we have different types of cakes, different flavors, different ways in which cakes are made. So you have carrot cake, carrot cake. So a carrot cake. So carrot here is also a noun. Carrot on its own is a noun. So carrot here is serving as the attributive noun to help modify the word cake. So moving on to the next one, we have appositive nouns. Now, an appositive noun or appositive noun phrase is a noun that comes after another noun to provide additional information about it. An appositive noun or appositive noun phrase is a noun that comes after another noun to provide additional information about it. So if the appositive provides essential information, that is, it wouldn't be clear who or what you're referring to without it. So what an appositive noun, it's very similar to attributive or what an adjective does. It provides additional information about a particular noun. So it's written without any extra punctuation. If it provides information that is essential, that is not essential, it's surrounded by commas. So for example, my colleague Adam has really bad breath. My colleague Adam has really bad breath. Now, the appositive here is Adam. So my colleague. Now, it could be any colleague, but I don't know who in particular this person is referring to that has bad breath. So the appositive that is giving more information, providing it more additional information to what is already known. So you could say my colleague has really bad breath. That's a complete sentence. That makes sense. But if I want to know more, I would ask, oh, which of your colleagues? And Adam is the answer. So my colleague Adam has really bad breath. Then the second example, my car, a Ford Focus. Now, I could as well just said my car broke down yesterday. But to give additional information to the noun car, so I tell you the particular brand of car that I'm using. So my car, a Ford Focus, or it could be my car, a Tesla, broke down yesterday. Now, finally, we have generic nouns. So a generic noun is a noun that is used to refer to a whole class of things or people or places. So they can be plural or singular, and they may appear with a definite article, an indefinite article, or no article. So the same noun may be used generically in some contexts and not others. For example, it will be equally possible to use the nouns in the sentences below in a non-generic way. So you have the people I know best are my brothers. My father operated a printing press. So generic are general terms that you refer to as people, like that you refer to. Okay, for example, you have people. People is general. So you call it a generic noun. People. the people I know best. My father. Father is a very generic noun. I mean, everybody or most people have fathers. Most people have fathers. That's general. Brothers too, it's a generic noun. Sisters, generic noun. There are a lot of examples of generic nouns. So you have people, you have father, you have brother. The example here, you have people are resourceful. People are resourceful. So people there is the generic noun. People are resourceful. Then you have the printing press revolutionized European society. So printing press is general. I mean, it's not specific. So generic nouns are somewhat similar to collective nouns or common nouns. Yes, preferably common nouns. So generic nouns are quite similar to common nouns. So they're general in a term, in a way, or general names that people are called by, things are called by, or places are called by. So that's that for nouns. So does anyone have a question? If you have a question, please feel free to ask your question in the chat box, or if you want to turn on your mic and speak, you can as well. Anybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, please go ahead, ask your question.
No, ma'am. I am very understanding this. I am from Pakistan. My official language is Urdu, but I gave math. I passed, but my English so weak due to I not easily understand.
All right. Um, so Abdul Basit, thank you very much for that question. So by the end of the class, someone will be reaching out to you on the further help that we'll be getting back to you on the further help that we can assist you with and in what capacity you want the assistance. Okay, yes, it's still. So parents, so I was explaining earlier about singular possessive nouns and plural. So except if you're referring to a single parent. But in the terms that we mostly use parents, we use parents as probably two parents. So you have either a father and a mother. So most times when people say parents, oh, I'm going to my parents' house. Now, of course, it's not completely wrong, but it just depends on the context of usage. So if you're using it based on the typical or common way that we know parents to be, that's two, the father and the mother. The apostrophe, when you're referring to both parents, the apostrophe will be after the S, not before the S, because that's plural. But if it's single, if you're referring to parents in the single form, probably just the father or just the mother, then the apostrophe is before the S. Okay, so like it's based on the context that you're using it. So but it's just that in an exam situation where probably if you're asked to do something like this, except if you're very sure of the context that is being used, except if you're very sure whether it's a single context as a single noun or as the plural form. That's when, if it's the single one, that's when the apostrophe is before the S. But if it's plural, the apostrophe is after the S. Is it clear, Estelle? All right, great. All right, great. Okay, so is there any other question? Does any other person have a question? All right, so in the absence of no other question, the class will be coming to a close now. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, and see you in the next class. Good night, Estelle.
Oh, non capiamo. Questo Action.
Hello, Mr. Abdul. The class has ended.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the class has ended for today.
Yes.
Okay. So do you need anything?
No. Yes, need.
Okay.
I need anything